Disclaimer. The following is a video reviewing this week's episode of RuPaul's Drag Race. This is a review of what is presented to us by the producers and nothing more. This is not commenting on who the queens are as people, as I do not know them personally. This is just about what we see on screen. Any hateful comments about or towards the queens will not be tolerated and will be removed. Oh, and also this will obviously contain spoilers about this week's episode, so don't watch it if you haven't yet seen it. With all that said, hope you enjoy this video. Yours truly, ElliXia. Hello gorgeous girls, gays and theys. You're watching a new episode of ElliXia's Drag Race Review with me, ElliXia Q Valentine. This week we are discussing episode 5 of RuPaul's Drag Race UK versus the World Season 1, aka the semi-final. Which is quite weird to think about, isn't it? Because it was literally like just a month ago I was doing the first video for this. But here we are at the semi-final. We are down from a top 5 into a top 4. As always, not that it really matters that much anymore, but of course house rules still apply. Please don't leave any spoilers in the comments section for future episodes. There's only one more episode left. We've come so far, we can go all the way. And before we get into the episode, of course, I just want to let you know that my name is ElliXia Q Valentine. Links for all of my social medias are in the description below. If you want to give me a follow or a subscription or a like, that's always very appreciated. Today's look was sort of semi-inspired by the episode. I know the runway theme was work of art. I don't really have anything that's like particularly artistic in that it features literal art on it. So instead I thought I would go for sort of basing my look on the song that they did in this week's challenge. They were singing or rapping about their hometowns, and so I thought I would do a look that's vaguely inspired by the town I grew up in. I grew up in Malvern, Worcestershire, if you don't know where that is. It's a countryside town in the Midlands. We are famous for Malvern water, for Morgan cars, for Edward Elgar, and for Cher Lloyd. There's a lot of greenery, there's a Malvern Hills, there's a lot of lovely, nice areas. I believe Malvern was declared an area of outstanding natural beauty, I believe. So, and of course, it's not hard to see why that is. Yeah, so I thought I'd go for like a nice sort of foresty green kind of affair today. I've even got a nice fan to match as well. So, on to the episode. Of course, at the end of the last episode, Pangina was very controversially and emotionally eliminated by Blue Hydrangea. The episode begins with the echoes of Pangina's cries circulating throughout the workroom and the studio. Blue's decision obviously was very controversial. A lot of the queens are very shook, although a lot of the queens also do admit that they probably would have done the same thing in Blue's shoes. Jujube is quite upset that Pangina's gone as well, as they become quite close. Bagger also reveals that the lipstick she chose was also Pangina's as well, which is the first time this season that both the top 2 queens have chosen the same person. Bagger says it's because she had sent Jimbo home previously, and so she wanted to get justice for Jimbo. I don't think that's very good, to be honest. Blue sent her home because she was competition, and whilst I don't think I would do that myself, I guess, I understand why she would do it. Whereas to send her home just for a personal reason of, well, she sent my friend home, so I'll send her home, I find that a bit, especially since there was only a few episodes before that Pangina was massively helping Bagger with her outfit, but there you go. With the 2 strongest competitors now out of the game, it really does blow a lot of the doors wide open. Fast forward to the new day in the workroom, and it makes me laugh because they have this conversation, and they do this every time, don't they? They have the conversation of, was this the top 5 that you were expecting when you walked in? And they always say, don't they, every season, they're like, yeah, no, this is the top 4 I envisioned, this is the top 3 I envisioned, or whatever number it is. And I'm always a bit like, is it really though? Is it really? But I like how this time it was like, is this the top 5 that you imagined? And it was a bit like, lol, no, basically. I actually think the top 5, or the bottom 5, if you will, that did not make it to the finale were probably the top 5 I would have predicted at the start of the season, except for maybe minus Cheryl. But everybody else, I thought, yeah, no, they're probably going to be the ones to beat this time, and well, I guess they were in some degree. But I liked that, I liked for a change it wasn't the usual, is this the top 4 you were expecting? Yeah, it was. conversation, and it was quite honest, I think. And so the queens are given their new challenge for this week, which is to record a verse for a remix of RuPaul's song Living in London. Is it Living in London or is it Live in London? Let me double check that, hang on. Okay, the song is actually called Living My Life in London, so there you go. I probably should have written that down in my notes, but there we are. And with this challenge, every queen in the top 5, with the exception of Janie, have released some form of song outside of the show. So everyone bar Janie has experience recording. The queens are writing their verses. Jujube has that attitude of, well, they're probably not gonna like it anyway, so I'll just do what I wanna do. And even though that kind of sounds a bit defeatist, I actually really do understand that mentality of like, well, it's probably not going to go very well, so fuck it, let me just do what I want to do. And when you do what you want to do, you actually end up doing better because you're not as worried about what people are going to think. I also enjoyed Bagger's Toni Braxton impression. I thought that was quite funny. We get to the recording of each song, and we are assisted by the lovely Jade Viral from Little Mix, as well as Ian Masterson. I think Jade is fantastic as well. She's really good at helping the girls out with their recordings, with their verses. Ian also is really good at, maybe coming up with some suggestions for tweaks as well. I think Jade is great. I would love for Jade to be almost a permanent fixture on Drag Race, like the resident producer. Janie struggles a little bit with her recording. It's a little bit ropey. It was giving me Carmen Carrera flashbacks from season 3 when she recorded her verse. Before you know it, it's then the next day, and the queens are preparing in the mirror for their performance and the runway. We had some very good workroom conversations this week, actually. I know a lot of the time in Drag Race, they do tend to get very deep and serious with these conversations, but I thought the two that they had today were really, really, really important. Bagger and Jujube both talk about their struggles with alcoholism, with drinking too much. I think that's a very important conversation to have as well, because so much of queer lifestyle and sort of culture is centered around nightlife, especially with drag as well. There's so many, majority of opportunities we get to do drag are in clubs and in bars. So alcohol is always a constant feature in a drag performer's life. And when you're performing, people offer you free drinks. They'll be like, let me get you a drink, etc. I don't drink myself either for a variety of different reasons, but like it is difficult when you're in a space where everyone else is really drunk. I think at the start of the night it's okay, but I often find that sort of towards the end, it gets to a point when you're just not on the same wavelength as everybody else. And it can be a bit sad and you sort of feel a little bit isolated. I very much admire Bagger and Juju for speaking about that this episode. And I also really appreciated seeing a different side to Bagger as well. Bagger often has that, I'm the most famous woman in Britain, much better, shtick. But we all know that beneath that is somebody who is actually probably very vulnerable. We also have a conversation in the workroom about religion and being gay between Janie, Blue and Mo. And this is really interesting because they're all from different parts of the world as well. And Mo's conversation about being a pastor and going through conversion therapy as well. Really important conversation topic, a really important thing that is still a problem at this point. It's something that our government in the UK have said they were going to ban. I think it was back in 2018, it might have been before then that they said that, and we are now in 2022 and this still hasn't happened yet. We had a different Prime Minister when the pledge to ban conversion therapy was made, and they're still giving sort of tiptoeing around reasons as to why they haven't done it yet. I just think just fucking ban it, do you know what I'm saying? It's a barbaric practice that doesn't work. But of course that's a different, that's a different video and I'm not gonna go too far into that, side of things. But I think it's very good that it was a conversation that was had. Mo was using her platform to speak on a very serious issue. What she said about, you are enough, I thought was really important, really valid. And I also really I'm grateful that this was a conversation that happened on the BBC as well. One thing that Mo said that really sort of resonated with me was when she said, Holy Spirit, you made me unique. And I'm not religious myself, but I really admire that she's still able to find comfort and peace within religion, even though she's been very mistreated in the name of the same religion. Mo is very inspirational, absolutely. We then move on to the runway. We have Jade Viral as a guest judge. She throws what could be interpreted as a little bit of shade towards certain former members of the girl group. Love the bitter and the sweet. And I have to say Jade looks gorgeous on the runway as well. That ponytail and that suit, amazing. She looks fantastic. And like I normally do on this series, I will talk about the queens in the challenge and on the runway sort of at the same time. And they came up with a nice alphabetical order, so that's nice and easy to remember. Up first is Bag of Chips. Bag of Chips, I thought, did okay in this week. In fact, do you know what? I think everyone, or should I say, no one did a bad job this week. Everyone was at least good. Bagger's verse was very much, you know, quintessential, full of baggerisms, which I've said before is not really my kind of cup of tea, but you know, I respect it. She didn't really dance that much. I wasn't particularly keen on the look that she had in the challenge either. It was a little bit like that kind of merch that you see in stalls in London that are clearly for tourists. You never see anybody actually wearing either. I liked the hair though. The hair looked a bit like toothpaste, so you know. Serving Aquafresh on the runway. Other toothpaste brands are available. Bagger's runway this week, I actually really liked that one though. I thought, yeah, there was probably some finessing and a little bit of fine tuning that could have improved it, but I thought she looked really nice. The hair and makeup was very pretty. It was nice that she did something that was a bit different for her as well. The flower pot skirt, that's what I think could have maybe been improved a little bit, but overall I thought she looked nice. And I've not been very positive about Bagger's runways this season because I've not really liked them. And I wouldn't say I loved this either, but I thought she looked good. Up next, we have the Eliminator herself, Blue Hydrangea. I thought Blue was okay in this challenge as well. I did notice there was a healthy dose of auto-tuning on her vocals for the verse. But I thought she did a good job. When she had the lipstick in her hand as well that said goodbye and she was like, I'm the Eliminator. I have sort of split feelings about that. I mean, on the one hand, I admire that it is quite ballsy. You know, it is quite a statement. But I think it would be a statement that would maybe be a little bit more effective if she had maybe eliminated more than one person. You know, she only eliminated Pangina, who granted was the strongest, but it was still only one person. You know, if this was like Bender the Kremen All-Stars 3 who eliminated, well actually Ben only eliminated, well, 2 people and himself, but Ben was in the top a lot. If it was that kind of, you know what I mean? If you were someone who had eliminated like 2 or 3 queens, then I'd get it, but whatever. I was a bit worried for Blue this week because she did seem to be a little bit cocksure that she had eliminated the strongest competitor, and I was thinking like, oh, I hope this doesn't come back to bite you. You're being very confident. But no, Blue did a good job with the song, and I liked her runway as well. I could see what the judges meant when they said it swallowed her up a little bit. Like, she did get a little bit lost in it, but I still thought it was really good. You know, I said wow when she came out, and it was very obvious to me that it was Picasso inspired. I mean, she said Picasso hole as well, which is, you know, that's iconic in itself. Yeah, I thought Blue did a good job. I think Blue, to me, was like solidly in the middle this week. Up next, we have the dearly departed queen, Janie Jacquet. I thought Janie actually did quite a good job myself. She looked really good in the challenge. I thought her look was really polished. And do you know what? Considering in the recording, she really did not sound very good at all. She was clearly on the struggle bus. But, I mean, Ian Masterson must have worked some magic on those vocals in the studio, because to listen to the track, you would never know Janie was struggling with it at all. She sounded great. Ian Masterson, master by name, master by nature, obviously. On the runway, I thought Janie looked nice as well. Yeah, it's a little bit minimal, but like I said before, Janie does minimal really well. I think she does minimal in a way that's very polished, very to the point, and looks really good. I liked the Andy Warhol Marilyn pop art style. Reminded me quite a lot of Madonna's Celebration album cover as well, which in turn I believe was inspired by Warhol and Marilyn. Yeah, I thought Janie did a good job this week, and some of the critiques of us a bit like, oh, I didn't necessarily agree with that, but there we go. Up next we have Jujube, and I'm gonna leave this to Sarah Harding to say how I feel.
Can I just say, it's about time!
Jujube finally showed up this episode. Like, she did a really good job. Her verse was good, her vocals were really good, and her runway was absolutely gorgeous. Like, I know Jujube has been on the struggle bus pretty much the entire season, but this, like, the Jujube that I know and love from previous seasons, it felt like finally she's here. Finally we're seeing her. She had that lovely, gorgeous look on the runway, and I like that she didn't go for like a specific reference in terms of, you know, work of art. It was more of an era. It was an absolutely gorgeous gown. The headpiece, the makeup, the earrings, everything. She just looked lovely. I just thought it's about fucking time, isn't it? Easily her best episode. like by a country mile this season. And then last, but in absolutely no way, shape or form the least, we have Mohart. Mo, to me this week, was the MVP for sure. I thought Mo did amazing. When they were recording their vocals, I thought Mo was gonna be amazing. Mo got flow, as it were. The fact that she rapped and sang bits of it, her vocals are so good. She can sing really, really well. She absolutely bodied and ate her whole verse. The whole performance, she left no crumbs at all. And I think she was easily the best one. And her runway look was just so gorgeous. That lovely lilac, the Dali inspired outfit, the headpiece with the flowers, the way she opened it and closed it, the makeup underneath. I thought Mo really did amazingly this episode, and I know Mo has been doing really well sort of throughout the competition, but it was nice that she finally got that recognition again. Thinking it's about time. Mo really made me smile this week. I thought she was absolutely wonderful. And we get to the verdict of this week's episode. The top two are Mo and Jujube, and the bottom three are Bagger, Blue, and Jamie GK. Like last week, it's a case of if you're not in the top, you're in the bottom. It was interesting watching the deliberations for me as well, because they were talking about, potentially getting rid of a front runner, getting rid of the strongest competition, and I was thinking to myself, who is that though? Because at this point, Mo and Juju have got their first win. Bagger and Blue have a win each, and Janie has 2 wins, but then also 2 times in the bottom as well, now on her third. And I was sort of thinking to myself, who actually is, if I wanted to take up the strongest competition, who would that be? Like, what are you basing it on? And I found it interesting they were talking about alliances as well. Mo and Blue have that alliance, and again, Blue was very, very confident that Mo wasn't going to eliminate her, and obviously we'll wait and see as to whether she chose that or not. I mean, I don't think she did. But again, I'd be thinking, I wouldn't make alliances, but if I was, the one in the position to deliberate, I'd want to be like, no, don't get too comfortable. Like, I could still get rid of you. And I personally wouldn't make alliances like that if I was in this kind of situation, because I'd be thinking, I would hate to say to somebody like, if you save me, I'll save you back. And then if it comes down to ever being in that situation and they do awful in the challenge, but I'm like, oh, but I said I'd save them. I would just keep my hands clean in that respect. We come back to the main stage and the girls are both looking fantastic. Mo especially looks like the star in an action film set in the future. They both look incredible. The lip sync song is Toy by Netta, the Eurovision winner in 2018. I thought the lip sync was okay. Like, both of them could have brought it more, I think. The first time I watched it, I thought, I don't know who I'd give the win to, but the second time I watched it, I thought I'd have given it to Mo. But Jujube, I guess, has sort of more character in her face, and I think that probably is what cinched her the win. Jujube is a fantastic lip syncer. She's done it 7 times on the show now, and she has lost 1 of them. And every other time she's either won or it's been a draw. So Jujube is declared the winner, and the queen she chooses to eliminate is Jamie GK. A decision that I was sort of 50-50 on. I didn't fully agree because I really like Janie and I thought, she has 2 wins, she deserves to be there. But she also did have, 3 times in the bottom too. And I know it's that rule of if you're not in the top, you're in the bottom. I think the bottom 2 this week, if that rule was taken out, would have been Bagger and Janie. So her elimination wasn't unfair. I wouldn't have done it myself. I think I would have chosen Bagger to go if it were up to me, but of course it's not. Like, I think if Janie had made it to the finale, she probably wouldn't have won because I don't know, her track record maybe would have gone against her. Who knows? But I think Janie has done a really good job this season. She came across really well. Her elimination was actually really refreshing, how well she took it and how nice she was about it. And I also like that she said dash hand at the end, because that's what Fred Van Leer says to the queens when they sashay away on Drag Race Holland. Janie's done really well, considering that her season of Drag Race Holland was only wrapped up 6 months before UK versus the World, as well as during a pandemic as well. And at the time that UK versus the World was being filmed, we were still in full lockdown, so not an easy time at all. And I hope Janie's performance on the show brings a bit more interest towards Drag Race Holland as well, because there are some amazing queens on that season too. And there we have our top 4. Bag of Chips, Blue Hydrangea, Jujube and Mohart. Not the top 4 I would have predicted myself. I definitely thought Pangina and Jimbo had a very good shot at it. I think it's a shame that they didn't. I also had a good feeling about Janie as well, so it is a shame that those 3 haven't made it to the end, but that, you know, that's just the way it's gone. It's interesting as well, because out of the top 4, they're all kind of, feels like it's on there a bit of a level playing field. You look at their track records, they all have 1 time in the top 2 each. Jujube has 3 times in the bottom. Bagger, Mo and Blue have 1 time in the bottom each as well. I think out of who is there, I am team Mo. That's who I would like to win. I think she has shown the most growth and she's been the most consistent throughout the competition. I also think Blue has done really well, because even in the episodes when she was just safe, she could have easily been in the top. So I think Blue has also been very consistent and also shown, you know, tremendous growth as well. So I would either be team Mo or team Blue, I think, to win. I really like Jujube, and I wouldn't actually object to Jujube winning because, you know, after 4 seasons of Drag Race, she deserves something, doesn't she? She deserves an award for services to Drag Race, if nothing else. Of course, her track record doesn't really lead to her being the winner, but I mean, you know, who knows? And then there's Bagger, who I don't really want to win, and to be honest, I think just watch my previous videos on this season and you'll understand why. 4 out of 5 episodes, I thought, nah, she should have been in the bottom, so. And that, you know, of course, almost wraps up the season. We're nearly at the end already. I'm not gonna miss it particularly. I like making these videos, and I guess I think it's a good thing that I chose a shorter season to start making these videos with. But this hasn't been my favourite season though, definitely. I know next week's finale is a lip sync smackdown for the crown as well, so that could be very interesting to see how that turns out. But in the meantime, that wraps up another episode of ElliXia's Drag Race Reviews. Thank you very much for watching and for the support. Don't forget to do all your good things like liking and subscribing and all that stuff. And of course, as always, stay safe and stay lovely. I have been ElliXia Q Valentine, and as always, please book me. Mwah.